Thank you, Mr. Feinberg. And for my remarks tonight, we've sort of organized them into a series of slides that I'm going to walk through. Also for future reference, that ease of the public to be able to access this information. So if you want to move to the next one, Anna. What I would like to review this evening is looking specifically at current data and some of the questions that we have around that data, looking at county and township data, questions that we would like to explore. If it was recommended that we move to virtual, what are the questions that we would like to explore before doing that? Look at our data in the district and positive cases, to report that the mitigation strategies are working in schools in general. Not just unique to our district, but mitigation strategies are working in schools. How to stress, once again, the public service announcements that we make, but to stress the importance, how vitally important those mitigation strategies are when we are outside of our schools. And then to bring to everyone's attention a significant need that we are beginning to experience, and one that could impact our ability to operate as we move forward. And I just don't want to lose sight of it. And I have another public service announcement about that as well. So first, we'll start by looking at the data. And the next slide that we're going to look at shows a dashboard that is on the Pennsylvania Department of Health website that is updated every Friday. So Friday must be the day for numbers. Not only does Chester County Health Department update the data, but Pennsylvania Department of Health updates that data. Data presented here is representative of a seven-day time period. So the first thing that you can see there is an increase from 526 cases over a 7-day period to 758. And this is for all of Delaware County. The two numbers that we pay significant attention to are in the next two categories: the incidence per 100,000 residents, which has escalated to 134.2, and the positivity rate, which is at a 6.9% as of October 30th. An interesting piece about this dashboard that is not included in the Chester County information is the inclusion of hospitalizations, which, as you can see, increased from 25 to 40 over a 7-day period. The increase in patients who require ventilators increased from 2.1 to 4.1, and the increase in emergency room visits that are, COVID-like illnesses increased to 1.3%. And the data set that we are even more familiar with, that some of us wait every Friday for it to come out, appears in two ways. And this is the data that the Chester County Health Department provides. The initial sheet that you see, they present everything by county. So we'll look at the positive case count per 100,000. We look at the positivity. Tonight, I do want to point out that although the very first bar that is on here, Chester County and Delaware County cumulative COVID-19 incident rate by public school district, it is a way that they have taken the county and tried to look at a geographic area. Those numbers do not reflect the positive cases in our district or any other district that is listed there, but it represents the data for the community that is the school district of Haverford Township. So every school that is within any of the parochial schools, every school that is within Haverford Township, every entity, every resident within Haverford Township is represented in those numbers, but they have titled it public school district. And we have asked for that to be titled in another way to indicate that that it represents that area, but the numbers themselves are indicative of the entire population within the township. That being said, though, you can see the increase. You look at, week 1 is the most recent week. So as of October 30th, our incident rate was at 108, down a little bit from 118 the week before. but that we had experienced a significant increase between when you compare 63 of week 3 with the 118 of week 2. Continuing down on those charts there, you'll then see, now is just the information for Delaware County itself. So within Delaware County, the incident count was at 134 as of October 30th, and the positivity rate at 6.76%. So if you could move on, we know that the numbers, we certainly know that the numbers are increasing. It is a concern to us, as it's a concern to anyone, that the numbers would increase. We were notified, as I mentioned in my communication earlier this week, we were notified by the Pennsylvania Department of Health and the Pennsylvania Department of Education that they are concerned, and if the trend continues, that they may recommend that we return to an entirely virtual environment. The Chester County Health Department is looking at their matrix, which we'll go to in a minute, but not right now, to see if they can provide greater clarity. So now I'll get into some of the questions that we have asked, like what's the period of time during which high numbers exist, before we move to virtual? How many weeks? And then the reverse of that, what data do we need to see evidenced within our community in order to get us back to hybrid? But for myself and many of my colleagues throughout the county, the ultimate question is, what is the goal in moving the children into an entirely virtual environment? Is the goal that by having children all return home and learn from home, that the community numbers will decrease? Or is the goal that we need to stop spread from even coming into the schools? So we have another meeting tomorrow. Hopefully some of those questions might be answered, but they were questions that we submitted on Monday when we had our initial meeting with those groups. But that it would be important, I believe, for us, and I would assume, as a board, you would want to know that. You would be taking a vote if we were, even if it were a recommendation that were made by those two entities, it would still require a vote for you to make the decision to return to 100% virtual. And I would imagine that would be one of the questions that you would have as well. What is the goal here? What are we trying to accomplish by returning to 100% virtual learning for students? When I mentioned the information that Chester County Health Department is trying to look at, we have been told that the guidance may be revised in 2 ways. They may be revising it for school, and this was part of the question that I had mentioned. Transitioning to a virtual model can be considered here. It says when thresholds of incidence rate and positivity are met for 2 consecutive weeks. Well, the guidelines that we're getting, although they were revised a number of times, this section of those guidelines has not been revised since our schools open. And there's a lot that we and our colleague districts are learning now since the schools have opened. And Chester County Health Department is taking a look at that, what they have learned through us, and are looking at, should they be making a change to that? Should they say that it could be a longer period of time, not just 2 weeks of high numbers and then you send everybody home, but could it be a longer period of time? They're also looking in the chart that you can see there. They're also looking at the community transmission that they categorize as very high. Is 80 the threshold, or would they have 100 the threshold? So there are 2 areas that when we had our meeting on Monday, we were told that they would revisit those areas and take a look at them and see if any modifications can be made. So moving on, the primary reason that those questions so easily come to mind is when you take a look at our schools, and our elementary buildings have been open since the first week of October, and we brought the next group of students in October 12th, and then our high school students have been in since October 19th. We have, and there are positive cases that have occurred. There's no in-school transmission And again, that's not just unique to the school district of Haverford Township. In some districts where they have experienced that, it's very limited. And what I mean by no in-school transmission, if I report that I have tested positive, and through the contact tracing and investigatory questions that are asked, it's learned that I probably got COVID from a family member, who had also tested positive. That's very different than if those questions can't be answered, but, oh, I was in a classroom with another student who had tested positive. That's what starts the in-school transmission. And we have not had, fingers crossed, we've not had, and it will eventually, but we have not had any in-school transmission. The cases that we have had have come from our students being involved in some type of a gathering, outside of school. They've got, understandably, contact with a family member. If a parent, or guardian tests positive for COVID, then, sometimes one of the children in the household will as well. So that is another way. And club sports, we have had experiences where some of our students who are involved with club sports, they're part of a group, other participants within that group have tested positive, or they're in quarantine because they were in close proximity to people in that. The other point that we raised in our discussions trying to process the possibility of returning to virtual was in our district, Chester County has not advised us to close a classroom. They have not advised us to close a building. So it seems like a very dramatic move to say that we're gonna return the entire district to virtual learning when we have not found ourselves in a position where we have needed to work with any of these interventions because there has been spread. The healthcare professionals with whom we talk, and I think in some of his blogs and articles, Dr. Rubin from CHOP has even been quoted that mitigation strategies within schools are working. That, by and large, and we're not naive to think that everyone is following all the rules and regulations all of the time. But by and large, the students seem to be getting the message that this is important if we want to be able to keep our schools open. And the older students like to be able to be involved in the activities. They like to be able to be in school, with their friends. And I think it's important enough for them that they're doing the best they can do to keep those mitigation strategies in mind. And this is my public service announcement for us to keep in mind that those same mitigation strategies, hand washing, 6 feet of social distancing, mask wearing, is very, very important when our students and staff are outside of school as well. We also think that, we're not saying it's everything that we are doing that is helping to keep the virus out of our schools. We applaud our parents and guardians for keeping children home when their children are displaying any kind of symptom. I'm hopeful that people are becoming more accustomed to that. It's not easy, when for so long we would send a child to school. They'll be okay when they get there. You try and tell them tough it out for the day. You can hang in there. You can get through your work, and then take it easy when you come home. So I applaud our students, their families, and our staff members. It's not easy for our staff members. Our teachers are accustomed to persevering, and they're going to get in there so that they can work with their students. And we're telling them, if you feel sick, if you are displaying any symptoms, please do not. And I believe over time that now people are seeing that, well, yes, even if I'm not feeling well and I go in for one day and then I, do test positive, I could potentially be the reason that entire classroom needs to shut down. And I think, everyone's becoming more conscious of that and would, appreciate that. So let's look at what some of our data reflect. And I also want to provide an explanation of this. because while I mentioned the Chester County data earlier, this data in no way reflects all of Haverford Township. This reflects our schools, and if there was someone who was in our building at a time when they were deemed to be contagious. That's the data that we're reporting on now, because this is the data that we can report with confidence. You know, if someone is staying home, they're choosing to stay home and self-quarantine, or like, I'm keeping my child home to quarantine my child because of a family function that we went to, and I have some concerns, you know, that's not on here, right? We are identifying, because we cannot report that with the credibility that I believe we are reporting with these numbers here. So if we're asked about these numbers, we know exactly who, when. We were involved in the contact tracing. We were involved in the communication with, with the family. There are other instances where we may not even be involved, in the conversation. So what's reflected on here, it's updated every Sunday night. We are updating it on Sunday night because it seems we have a joke among ourselves that COVID testing results must come out at 4 o'clock on a Friday. Because that we seem to get the calls late in the day on Friday that, either, a parent will contact our building principal that they got test results back. And then we look, so let's use Friday. So we get that information. We find out when did the child display symptoms? When was the child tested? When was the child, from the first time they displayed symptoms, where were they 48 hours prior to that? So there's a lot of investigation that our parents and guardians have been terrific in participating with the staff in our district, answering those questions. And then from those questions, we will inform others who were close contacts that those individuals should be quarantining. We've had, within our first week, we had 2 experiences at Coopertown and 1 experience at Linwood. Within the second week, which was actually the first week for our students in grades 4 through 8, we had 1 experience at the middle school. And then as we moved into the third week, we had 3 experiences at the middle school. We had 4 experiences at the high school, and 1 that we've identified as district staff. District staff means that individual could be in several different buildings. They're not just affiliated with one particular school. If the numbers change, so if you looked at those numbers on Sunday night, and then for whatever reason, you went back and looked at them again on Monday evening, and you see a change there, that could be because we got a call on Sunday and we're investigating something, and it actually needs to be attributed to the week before, because we're identifying, so you would know on the week of the 19th, there were 3 individuals in our middle school during a time when they were contagious. There were 4 individuals in our high school during a time when they were contagious, and 1 district staff member in the district at a time to be considered contagious. So I hope that sheds a little bit of light on what that data, what they reflect, and why we're choosing to present it this way. I've seen, what some other districts are doing. We all seem to be somewhat similar, in the approach. I know some districts will differentiate between students or staff. I don't know why. I still have not figured out why that would make so much of a difference. It's a human being who was there at a time when they were contagious. So we have continued to just identify the numbers themselves for there. So the last piece that was on our agenda that I said I wanted to just mention, and also as a public service announcement, we're growing increasingly concerned about our staffing needs in the district. Substitute teachers have been exceptionally difficult to secure. And in some instances, people within our community would serve as substitute teachers. They're unable to do that and make that type of commitment now. As I said, our employees who in the past would tough it out, we're asking them, please, do not come into school when you're not feeling well. For us right now, Our primary concern is instructional assistance and the need that we have a greater need for instructional assistance. But I don't see that remaining the same. I don't see that, like, within the next few weeks, that our needs are not going to increase for substitute teachers as well. And just across the state, when you look at the availability of candidates in general has declined. We had talked about that at some point. Yeah, that was okay, Anna. You can go over that one. We had talked about that at the overall teacher shortage and the significant drop in those who are choosing to go into the teaching profession. So we're at a time where we need the availability of a larger pool of people at a time when the pool itself has gotten much smaller. So that anyone that we post on our website. We have put it out on social media. We identify in Haverford Happenings. We now have Kelly Education for our per diem substitutes. That's who we're working through. We're directing people there. You can see some of our Twitter posts. We're trying to get the information out because it is a concern, and because it's not something that's unique to us. We're all competing for the same people throughout our county. So we'll have a period of time where some of my colleagues in other districts will talk about their absentee rate, for a teacher group. And someone last week mentioned that they had over 140 people that they were trying to get, substitutes for. That's not the number that we are looking at. But I would be remiss if I didn't publicly say this is just as much a concern to us administratively as getting a recommendation to move 100% virtual, because it's possible that we could get to a point, depending on the trajectory of the virus and the impact of it, that we could get to a point that staffing is a reason that we are unable to continue with our hybrid model. So please, if there's anyone that out there, right now, our primary focus is, as I said, instructional assistance. But we know that there will be just as much of a need for increasing our substitute teacher pool in addition to that. So, any questions?
Bridget?
Hi, thank you for all of that. I guess just one question, or a couple questions. One is, if there are people in the community who are seeing the COVID data and are second guessing their selection to have their students participate in hybrid, could you just speak to what their options might be at this point? I know we talked about trying to keep people with their initial selection through the trimester or semester, but is that something that you could just speak to, since there might be concerns?
And understandably that that there may be some concerns. We had initially, asked that people would make a commitment if they were, expressed interest in Haverford Online, and that was purely done so that we could staff it, appropriately, and allocate. It's almost like running two schools when you think about it. Like, you've got this group out here online, but you need to have the teachers, and there are limits to the class sizes that we work with. And then you've got our brick and mortar, students and teachers coming in. And here you've got even more stringent number of students that you can put into the room by virtue of the physical space itself and the requirement of 6 feet of social distancing. So if someone is, concerned that they, the numbers are increasing to a point where they really feel that they do not want their child in the school, I would suggest that, at the secondary level, they contact Mr. Baradoni. I will say there's a little more flexibility at the high school to move around in Haverford Online than at the other levels. To contact Ms. Harvey if you're the parent or guardian of a middle school student, and to contact Mr. Umarino if you are the parent or guardian of an elementary student. And like anything else in our elementary grades, there are some grade levels where we've got a lot of spots available in Haverford Online, and there are some grades where there are very limited spots, and one grade where we do not have any spots right now in Haverford Online. I'll also just remind people that if your child is a child in one elementary school, we'll just say for right now, and you decide you'd like that child to exit the hybrid model and register that child into Haverford Online, we cannot at this time guarantee that your child would be part of the Linwood cohort who are in Haverford Online. That class may already be too large. So it might be, the children from another school, but that's working okay. We've got some of that set up now with children from Chestnut Walden and Coopertown and Manoa, and moving on where they have come together as an online community, and their homeschool, is not the same for everybody in the room, but it's working okay.
And that will serve them well as they move into the middle school and high school. They'll know some of those kids. I wanted to ask another question too about the contact tracing. And I know that the district has made all the efforts for the 6 feet of spacing. Could you speak to why someone might get a notice from exposure at school that describes close contact if we have spaced the student desks at 6 feet?
Certainly. So that could be a couple of reasons. Number one, it could be if someone had removed a mask. I mean, there would be like close contact. I'm glad you asked that. Close contact does not refer solely to physical proximity to one another. Close contact could be, you were, even with your masks, you were there for a longer period of time together. As I said, someone removed a mask, or while we're trying to put the tape and the markers all over the place. Sometimes people will say, well, yeah, we weren't really 6 feet apart. And that's better for us when people just say that right away. That helps us rather than have someone say, nope, it was 6 feet, nothing else.
Okay, thank you. And just a third question. I know that in your comments, you described the importance of people staying home and participating in contact tracing when they've shown symptoms and tested positive. I'm also interested in the kind of public service announcement we have about people who maybe haven't developed symptoms, but were told through contact tracing or just through their relationships that, okay, yeah, we were at an event and later learned somebody there was, there was a COVID case. Is our guidance for students and staff to, in those cases, also kind of isolate, work from home, study from home, or is it just when they get a positive test or start showing symptoms?
So I want to make sure that I understand the question correctly. And I'm also going to ask, if Nicole wants to jump in at any point in time. Nicole probably recites these guidelines in her sleep. And she's been a great resource for so many of the building principals and departments in the district. So you are asking if I were in contact with someone who tested positive. Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, if I were at a family event with a cousin and I found out that the cousin tested positive and I was in close proximity to, to that person, then yes, I should be quarantining. If someone in my house is home from work because they were in close proximity to someone else and it doesn't extend, like it doesn't keep extending all the way out. If I've if I've explained that right, Nicole.
Yeah, so, and the person who has COVID would actually be isolating. And so there's a difference between isolating and quarantining. The person who's COVID positive isolates. The person who's a close contact to someone who's COVID positive quarantines. And we added some information to the website and sent some information out because I think there was some confusion with, I was told to quarantine from this place. But if you're told to quarantine, it's not, you just can't come here. You should be quarantining and, you know, not really going anywhere. You should be staying home. So we tried to get that information out to clarify for everyone.
Okay, I think that's important for people to understand that it's not just your own positive test or your own showing symptoms, but following that guidance. If you've been told to quarantine, that applies to your attendance in our school and all other activities.
And other activities. Yes, thank you for raising that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Next up, Laura.
Bridget took most of my questions. But I still had one other question. I believe it was at our last meeting, you had talked about some new technology that we had or that we were getting. So cameras in the classroom and some monitors so that we could have the Zoomers and the roomers. Where are we on that? I'm just thinking in terms of mitigating and helping people to stay home when they're not feeling well, you know, then they're not missing out on anything, right? They can keep continuously learning with their, you know, with their hybrid days. So where are we on that?
I believe, and if I'm wrong, Sarah will jump in, but I've been, Sarah, the cameras are all in for grades 4 through 12. And teachers have access to them. They may not all be installed yet. And the second monitors that we were looking at for everybody, they've just been ordered because we got a funding source, you know, for those. So I think that may be.
Can I just add one thing and say that I just need to give a shout out to the teachers, and Jen can jump in as well. But those devices are things that will allow it to be a little more seamless. But the teachers have gone above and beyond to really make sure that students are being included. If that means grabbing an extra Chromebook and zooming in and making sure that whether students are quarantined or even at home on their asynchronous days have access to their teachers as well. So those devices will be in place and really help execute the goal. But the teachers are just doing a phenomenal job now to make sure that all kids are really engaged and participating if they're at home.
Thanks. So hold on, I just wanted to follow up on that. So then is notification going out to parents in some way to let them know, like once that is installed and the teacher has set that up and made that a possibility, is some kind of notification going out to students and parents so that they're aware that they can take advantage of that on their, like if they needed to stay home, if Monday's their normal day and they had to stay home because they're sick, like they would know that they could do that, right? I'm not sure if my question is clear.
Yeah, that question makes sense to me.
Okay.
And I'll jump in here. Yes, we are asking that communication come from the teacher for several different reasons. Even with the capability of doing it, teachers are really choosing the right opportunities for it. You know, is it best for this particular lesson? Is it better for another day? So we're asking them to communicate what the schedule will be and the times that students will be able to access via Zoom while they're learning remotely. And so there will be some individuality with that, but we're really working on finding the best ways to keep the kids connected.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Reusche.